Welcome to B777. My name is Fabrizio. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at an incident that happened on a Boeing 777 taking off out of Dubai. And we're going to connect this incident to private jets. We're going to talk about pilot training and that in this episode. So let's look at the incident. It happened the end of December of 2021. The aircraft was going to be flying from Dubai to Washington, United States, a 14-hour flight. 4 pilots were on the flight deck. When they do these long flights, there's 4 pilots. 2 of them do the takeoff, the other 2 do the landing, while the other 2 rest. That's how it works. So 777-300ER, the weather was very good. It was 21 degrees Celsius that evening, no wind. So we can't say that the weather played into this. The aircraft started going down the runway. At decision speed, V1, and then rotation speed, the aircraft still stays on the ground. It continues tearing down the runway to about 90 meters before the antennas at the end of the runway. The aircraft eventually gets airborne around about 230 knots, so way past takeoff speed. Misses some buildings at the end of the runway by just 175 feet, so that's really, really close. And then they continue the flight to Washington. Now, why did this happen? There's lots of speculation at the moment, but, you know, pilots go through a series of checklists before takeoff that checks this, check that, and they check each other. You know, the fact that if there was a problem or some sort of emergency and that wasn't called out, the fact that they took the airplane into the air and continued the flight, that's strange, because if you did have a problem, an emergency, and you did eventually get airborne, what you would probably do is circle around for a while just to burn some fuel so you've got the right landing weight, and then land. You wouldn't continue your 14-hour flight. 14-hour flight is a long flight. They didn't divert anywhere, so not quite sure what happened there, but they came so close to crashing this aeroplane with all the people on board, and that's the main thing. So that's the first sort of piece of information. The next piece of information which I found, which is really interesting, is that the Airline Pilots Association in the United States, ALPA, actually published just recently some interesting data where in 2021 pilot deaths were up 1,750% compared to the previous year. Now, why that happened? There's lots of speculation out there. What you tell me what you think. Let's get the conversation below here in the commentary boxes. Let's see what you think. The other thing I'm hearing, and this is not stuff I've read on the internet, these are buddies of mine calling me, is that pilot incapacitation is on the increase. This is happening all over airlines around the world. Some of these are getting into the press, some of them aren't. Over the last couple of years, the pilot incapacitation has increased. This incident here that happened with the Emirates 777, it could be pilot incapacitation. We'll find out as soon as they go more into the investigation, see what the flight data recorder tells us, the cockpit voice recorder. We'll see what the pilots were up to. So we'll find out more about that in the next few weeks and months. But, you know, this situation that's happening, you know, increasing pilot deaths, pilot incapacitation, this incident with Emirates, are all very, very worrying. Now, the reason I'm saying this is if you have your own private jet, you control the pilots. When you get on an Emirates flight or a Virgin Atlantic or United Airlines, whatever, you don't know if the crew up front are rested, well trained. You know, usually they are trained well. You don't know what's going on up front. The company culture. Let's put it this way: you have no control over that. That's the main thing. When you own your own private jet, you control the pilots. You hire them. You decide how many you're going to hire. You decide how often they're going to fly. You decide how much money to spend on their training. You know, all these factors. You can basically set up your own flight department with a great safety culture, with pilots that are friends with each other, pilots that are humble, that aren't afraid to challenge each other if the other person is making a mistake, because pilots do make mistakes. It's not about not making mistakes. It's about managing the mistakes when they happen. And being humble is really, really important. So, number one, the pilot that's flying has to be humble if the other guy challenges him. You know, people do make mistakes. And the guy that sees the other pilot making a mistake must not be afraid to speak up and say, hey, you're a bit slow, you're a bit high, you're a bit low, whatever it may be. It's really, really important that, you know, there's this type of attitude, mindset, whatever you want to call it, in the cockpit of cooperation. We're here to win. We win together. If you make a mistake, it's like I'm making a mistake, because we're a team. So we're here to grow together, develop and improve. And that's really, really important. And, you know, as a private jet owner, you can set that tone with your pilots. You can hire the right people with that type of mindset and then give them the extra training and all that. But, you know, you're in control. Same with the maintenance. You're in control if you own the aeroplane. And that's really, really my point here. I mean, if you are in the space of having a wealth of over $30 million, you should be owning your own private jet and flying exclusively private wherever you go. It just gives you more control over the flight aspect. And these figures that I just mentioned in this episode of BizJet TV are very worrying, what is happening out there at the moment. And so it's just another reason to buy a private jet. Now, if you haven't watched this other video about the Challenger crash that happened recently, have a look at that. That's interesting, my analysis there. And if you haven't subscribed to BizJet TV, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. That's all from Fabrizio on this episode, and I'll see you on the next one.